It's just another day here over in my corner of the internet, making some delicious egg yolk coffee. And yes, that's what I put in my coffee. I've had many of you ask, what do you put in your coffee to get it to foam up like that? I have a recipe on my blog if you want all the details. And also going to fry some sourdough breaded pork cutlets while we solve one of the major problems in the world. And I'm actually not kidding this time. This is actually a really big problem in the world, and it's the problem of the rapture. If you live in a developed nation, you probably know exactly what I mean when I say the word rapture. And images of the book or the movie Left Behind come to mind, images of fear and chaos. You basically imagine like all the good Christian people vanishing one day, leaving behind their clothes and their vehicle when they were driving it, planes flying in midair. The pilot just vanishes. Just imagine the chaos that would cause. I mean, we had the books and the movies to tell us, right? I think all of us have been exposed to that left behind version of the end times. And because that has been so popularized, that's what a lot of people think is really taught by the Christian church and by the Bible, that at the end of the age, at the end of this world as we know it, there will be a rapture that causes Christians to vanish and leaves behind all of the other people, all of the non-Christian people, to experience 7 years of extreme trials and tribulation and persecution. And then there will be a second coming, I guess you could say, of Jesus, because that first coming, so they say, that rapture is Christians going to be with Jesus. And then after the 7 years of trial and tribulation, he comes again and he reigns from a temple in Jerusalem on Temple Mount for 1,000 years. That's the story, right? Maybe if you're listening to this, you believe that. Maybe you have grown up a Christian and read the Bible your whole life, and you're probably thinking of Bible verses all throughout the Bible that justify the exact scenario I just laid out. But what if I told you that no one in Christianity, not one single Christian before the 1800s believed that? That's what I'm telling you, and that's the truth. And I welcome anyone who would like to provide one shred of evidence, one single solitary fact to prove that wrong. Because I've researched it up and down and backwards and forwards and sideways. I actually used to be a part of a church who held that belief, and it was their primary belief. If you were a part of this church, you didn't have to be there long. They were incredibly nice people, loved the Bible, would, just really passionate about Jesus. But the most important thing in this church is the rapture. They are rapture ready at any minute, convinced that they're going to be snatched up. The Greek word that they would use for that snatching up, that rapture, is harpazo, by the way, harpazo. And if you grew up learning about the rapture, you know that word. And that's the main doctrine of this group of Christians. They don't really get too detailed about moral issues like marriage and divorce and birth control and cohabitation and how we live, so much as this rapture, this end times event. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what the Christian church has actually taught and believed for 2,000 years, and how we explain certain verses in the Bible in light of this not even 200-year-old belief of a left behind rapture.
I get a lot of questions about what I use on my hair to keep it healthy and shiny and smooth, and the answer is just not that exciting because sometimes I make my own shampoo and conditioner. Sometimes I use something on the more natural side, but I'm pretty low maintenance as far as what I put on the outside, because I really believe that the best way to address the health of our hair, skin, and nails and our appearance on the outside is to start with what we're putting in our body. And in today's day and age, there are just a lot of nutritional gaps with our poor soil and air quality. So bridging those gaps with quality vitamins and minerals is really important. And I have been using Mary Ruth's Organics for years now. It's been a trusted name in my home, for my mom, for my sister. Mary Ruth's Organics just makes it really quick and easy to cover all of your bases with their liquid morning multivitamin and their liquid nighttime multi-mineral. You're getting your vitamins and minerals in a very easy to digest liquid form. The liquid morning multivitamin contains vitamins A, C, D, and E, as well as methylated forms of your B vitamins, which is really easy, especially for those of us who have difficulties with methylation. Also choline, which is a really big one for reproductive health. So you're covering a lot of bases here. And it also contains Listriva, which has been clinically shown to help grow thicker, fuller hair and improve facial fine lines, wrinkles, and smoothness. A liquid nighttime multi-mineral contains calcium, magnesium, zinc, selenium, copper, manganese, chromium, and also Sepitone bilberry fermented fruit extract, which has been clinically shown in women to increase skin elasticity, improve skin firmness and texture, and reduce fine wrinkles. And these results are achieved by actually nourishing your body and improving your health on a cellular level. I also love that Mary Ruth's has more specialized things. So if you're looking for something specific, they've probably got it. Something specific that I take every day, especially right now when I'm kind of in the conception prep phase. I'm not pregnant yet, but I'm aware we're just open to it. So CoQ10 is a daily for me. This is just really important for egg health. Right now, pretty much all of Mary Ruth's products are 20% off on Amazon for Prime Day. And when you use my code MRO Heights, you will get to stack another 20% on top of that 20% discount for a total of 40% off. So it's a great time to stock up. If you are a current user of Mary Ruth's, or if you're just getting started, definitely take advantage and stack my code when you go to checkout. So I will put my code, my link, and all the details for Mary Ruth's in the description below the video. Just tap the more button and check it out.
All right, so whether you are new here, you've been here, whether you're a Christian, or all of this sounds crazy or maybe scary to you, my goal is not to change anybody's mind. I mean, if your mind's going to be changed, I hope that would be because of facts that I present that you maybe look into yourself. I'm just here to lay out facts for you to take, and you can use them as a jumping off point and run with them. So here's the outline that we're going to use. By the way, I'm just standing here looking at my husband's plans for all of the stuff he's going to be building for our projects on the farm. He's working on chicken coops and all kinds of stuff. And I will have a vlog coming up soon for you guys with farm updates because we have so many farm updates. But here's the outline of our little chat on the rapture. We're going to start by talking about the history of the rapture. I made the claim that it is only about 200 years old when we know that Jesus started his church 2,000 years ago. So I'm going to back up that claim with a little bit of evidence and kind of point you in the right direction if you want to learn more. And then we are going to talk about one of the most popular Bible verses used by people who believe in this left behind rapture, which you can find, a lot of people call it a pre-trib rapture. That's short for pre-tribulation. That means that they believe people will be raptured and taken up to heaven, Christians that is, before any really bad tribulation happens to the church, okay? So we'll talk about one of the Bible verses they use, and then we're going to talk about actual legitimate Christian biblical teaching on this issue. What does the actual historical Christian church teach about the end times and about the rapture? I'm going to give you some resources and some more things to look into on that. So let's start with the history of this pre-trib left behind, vanish, leaving only your underwear and socks and shoes and outfit and massive chaos behind. Where does this come from? Comes from the 1800s. The origins are a little bit disputed because there are actually two stories you see when you try to look into where this came from. One is the story of a charismatic woman, Scottish woman named Margaret MacDonald, who had some visions and some prophetic utterances in about 1830. And they were kind of interpreted to mean that there would be two comings of Christ at the end of the world. It would kind of happen in two stages. And this was new because for all of time, the Christian church believed that there would just be, Christ came the first time. That was the first coming. And we believe he will come again. That's the second coming. But Margaret MacDonald's, the Scottish woman's visions hinted at like a second and a third coming. This was in 1830. But a few years before that, there was a man named John Nelson Darby and a European Protestant. He was actually a pastor in the Plymouth Brethren denomination who started formulating this theory as well. And this is the very first time in history that anyone had come up with a theory like this to explain the end times, the end of the world from a Christian perspective. And he theorized that Jesus would be coming again two more times. The first time would be in a sudden event where people are caught up in the sky, raptured, so to say, and they go to heaven to be with Jesus. They go to heaven, and these are the Christians that are on the earth at the time that this event happens. They will be caught up and they will go to heaven. And from that moment, all hell will break loose, so to say. Chaos will ensue, which you could imagine if this were true. That would happen, right? Like people just vanishing left and right. And that would lead to 7 years of extreme trials and tribulation. It's actually called the Great Tribulation. Okay. And this would kind of be a second chance for people to accept Christ into their life. And at the end of this 7 years, he would come again for a third coming and sit and physically reign from a physical temple in Jerusalem where the current Dome of the Rock Al-Aqsa Mosque is. So if you don't know much about your history, in Jerusalem, there used to be a temple, right? There were two temples actually, known as Solomon's Temple and then the Second Temple. The second Jewish temple fell in the year 70 AD. Okay, 70 AD, that temple was destroyed. And the site where that temple was located, what's there now, it's a Muslim holy site now. Okay, Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. That's what's there now. So the people who believe in this left behind rapture, one of their goals is to see that mosque and the dome be destroyed so that a third temple can be rebuilt. This is why you see American evangelicals get so excited they can hardly contain themselves about committing genocide in Gaza. Okay, they want this. They want the Holy Land to be pretty much utterly destroyed so that the mosque and the dome are destroyed, and then a third Jewish temple can be built, because they believe that this is where Jesus will reign. This is really problematic because the historical Christian church believes that there will be a third temple built, and that's where the Antichrist will sit and reign. So can you see how, for somebody who claims to be a Christian, it could be really problematic if they believe that the person reigning from a third Jewish temple in Jerusalem is Jesus, when for 2,000 years it's been taught that that person would be the Antichrist. So let's get back to John Nelson Darby. He kind of came up with this system in the 1800s and worked on developing it. And, it didn't gain too much traction at first until he met a man named C.I. Scofield. And this guy, you've just got to look into this guy. I don't have time in this video to give a full history of this man, but very sketchy character. I believe he had run out on his wife or something. He had a criminal record, just a sketchy guy. But he hooks up with Darby. This Scofield and Darby get together and popularize this theory of a two-stage second coming, along with other doctrines that support that theory by promoting Jewish supremacy in order to kill and destroy anyone in the Holy Land so that the third temple can be built. Okay, so all of this is promoted in this religious system that was invented in the 1800s. And C.I. Scofield actually writes a study Bible, and all of the notes in this study Bible promote this ideology, which comes to be known as dispensationalism. Okay, so they write their own version of the Bible, which they use the actual Bible, but the study notes, interpret different passages in the Bible to say that the Jews are God's chosen people and they're supreme to all other people, while the Christians are God's plan B. Okay, so the Jews are plan A for God, but because they rejected Jesus, then the Christians, who are plan B, are allowed to participate in the life of God, and that Christians will be raptured and they will go to heaven, but the Jews will inherit the earth. And Jesus will reign from a physical third temple in Jerusalem after a left behind rapture followed by 7 years of trial and tribulation. If I'm being repetitive, I'm sorry guys, but you have to remember, maybe you did grow up with this and it's like, come on lady, get to the point. So many people have no idea what any of this means, but we're all really being affected by it because it influences our policies and politics and what wars we fight in this country. And there are a lot of people who, are consider themselves Christians and they fully believe this. They have no idea that this is not a true Christian doctrine. So I'm trying to be thorough while still getting through my agenda here today for anybody who really needs to be caught up to speed and just might be overwhelmed with this. So once that Scofield Study Bible was written, it was distributed to seminaries throughout the United States, and I would say really throughout like the Western world. And that is how this ideology of dispensationalism and a left behind rapture and extreme Jewish supremacy permeated modern Protestant evangelical culture to where it's the prevailing worldview. I think we all saw Ted Cruz, what was it on Tucker Carlson? I can't remember where he was, but Ted Cruz recently say that bless Israel and you will be blessed. And that's a verse that's not in the Bible. That's nowhere in the Bible. But he was using that to justify genocide in Gaza. And that really comes from this viewpoint of needing to do whatever can be done to destroy the existing buildings on that Temple Mount and then build a third Jewish temple. Okay, so let's move on to the Bible. So, it's a proven fact, cannot be disputed, that this ideology is only 2 years old. But what about the fact that the Bible alludes to a rapture? What do we do with that? Maybe God just waited 1800 years to reveal the proper biblical interpretation to John Nelson Darby. God certainly could do that because he's God. He's all powerful and he can do anything. But if he did do that, if he waited 1800 years to reveal the truth about the second or coming, or I guess the end of times, then he did so in contradiction to his inspired word that we read in the Bible, because he promised the apostles to be with them to the end of the age and to lead them into all truth. So if the apostles were teaching something false for 1800 years, then Jesus' promise doesn't stand because his church has been essentially teaching falsehoods and lies until about 200 years ago. And that's just not logical. So what do we do with the Bible? Well, it's impossible for me in this 25-minute YouTube video to do an entire survey of biblical verses and how some of them can be used to perhaps explain a left behind pre-tribulation rapture. So I just want to go over one. I would say the most commonly cited Bible verse by people who believe in this ideology comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. So I'm going to read that. It says, "The dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air." So see, right there in the Bible, it says that people will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So that's the rapture, right? Well, kind of. I never said that the historical church didn't believe in a rapture. I said that they never believed in a left behind pre-tribulation rapture. Because that concept of being caught up in the clouds to meet Christ at the end of time is right in the Bible. And that's actually something that the church has always believed. We just don't believe that it will be a secret event just for Christians at that time and that it will be followed by 7 years of tribulation. We believe exactly what the Bible, because the Bible doesn't say that. We believe what the Bible says. And no more, no less. We believe that we will be caught up in the air, in the clouds, to meet Christ. But that's it. There's just one second coming. Christ comes again one more time. So if I can go ahead and step into this third part of what I wanted to accomplish with this video, which was outlining the historical Christian teaching on end times, I can do so in about 5 steps. So the things that must come to pass, this is according to 2,000 years of consistent Christian teaching. 2,000 years. This has not changed. This is what every Christian has believed, aside from those who have kind of gone rogue in the last few hundred years. These 5 things. Number 1, the gospel will be preached to all nations. Okay, that has to come to pass. There can't be any remote places who have never had an opportunity to hear of Jesus. Number 2, there will be a final trial or persecution or tribulation of the church, a sort of great apostasy where many people fall away because it's very difficult to be a Christian, socially, politically, unacceptable in many ways, and Christians will be persecuted. This has to come to pass. There will be a physical, actual Antichrist that rises to power. Okay. Then number 3, Christ returns in glory. This is the second coming of Christ. It will be visible and known to all men. There will be no hiding from it. This is not a secret second coming. This will be a universally experienced and known event. The dead will be raised. We will be caught up in the air to meet the Lord. And the final judgment will take place. And then the new heavens and the new earth begin. That's the sort of flyover view of the historical, continuous, 2,000-year-old teaching of the Christian church. If you want to learn more about that, you can see the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which answers every question a person could want to know about what Christians have believed for 2,000 years in God's universal church, which that is what the word Catholic means. It means universal. It doesn't mean universally people who claim to be Christians. That means the universal, one and the same doctrine held for 2,000 years, okay? So you can see that for more details on how things are going to go down. So, historical Christians, known as Catholics, do believe in a rapture or a catching up in the clouds or a harpazo, as the Greek would put it in the Bible verse we talked about earlier. We do believe in that. We just believe that it happens once and it's not a secret. It happens when Jesus comes again and it's a glorious event. It does happen after some trials and tribulations, but we have nothing to fear. Christ commanded us to pick up our cross and follow him through in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer. You don't have to worry about figuring everything else out. So I hope this video was interesting or maybe set your mind at ease. I don't know, it kind of sets my mind at ease knowing it's actually not that crazy and pretty straightforward as far as what we can expect as Christians for the end of this age, whether we live to see the actual end of the age or not. Well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. I'll see you next week. All of my recipes that you see most often here can be found at hopewellheightsblog.com, which I will link below the video.